Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is seeking to shore up support from his allies after a shock rebel offensive which saw his forces lose control of Aleppo. Syrian and Russian airstrikes pummeled areas of northern Syria as Iran's top diplomat paid a visit to Damascus in a show of support for the Assad regime. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi landed in Turkey hours after holding top-level talks in Damascus. According to Turkish media, Araghchi was expected to meet with the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan on Monday before talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Syrian regime has accused Erdogan of supporting and funding the Syrian rebels' efforts to topple the Assad regime. Now, Russia, which is another Assad ally, was helping the Syrian army repel the insurgencies. Russian military has said that missile and bombing strikes were carried out, adding that at least 320 militants were destroyed in the airstrikes carried out by Russia. Moscow has announced earlier this week that it was bombing the rebel targets, according to the Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Russian warplanes have struck parts of Aleppo for the first time since 2016. Russian and Syrian jets also bombed the northwestern city of Idlib, reports say, citing military sources. Meanwhile, the United States and its allies, France, Germany and Britain, called Sunday for de-escalation and urged in a joint statement for the protection of civilians and infrastructure in Syria. Meanwhile, Syrian Army Chief General Abdel Karam Mahmoud Ibrahim conducted a field tour in northern Hama countryside. The visit comes while the Syrian military rushed reinforcements to the country's northwest. Meanwhile, the troops in Syria have created a strong defensive line in northern Hama as they attempt to stall the insurgents' momentum after they took control of Aleppo. The rebels' offensive by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham was launched on Wednesday with a two-pronged attack on Aleppo and the countryside around Idlib before moving towards neighboring Hama province. And well, for more on this, we were earlier joined by Colonel David Biderosh from Washington, D.C. He's a professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies and former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. And this is what he had to say on the current situation in Syria and what is next for the Bashar al-Assad regime.
Right now, the rebels are moving down to Hama. If they take Hama and the countryside to the west of it, that will isolate Damascus from the Russian naval base in Tartus, as well as the Russian air base, which is outside of Latakia on the Mediterranean Sea. So Russia stands quite a bit to lose. Most of their senior leaders have fought in Syria, some multiple times, and it would just be a humiliating climb down for them. So they are vested in keeping Bashar al-Assad in power, and indeed the word is that Bashar either was in or remains in Moscow. Iran wants to see their client state in place, primarily to secure a land bridge between Lebanese Hezbollah, which of course is on the ropes, has basically ceased to function as an effective military organization, and their proxies in Iraq. They need a land bridge from Tehran to Beirut, basically. If Bashar al-Assad falls, that will be disrupted. And they also invested a lot of money and a lot of lives. Some of the lives were Iranian and most of them were others in their proxies to keep Bashar in power. They don't want to see that wiped out. Turkey's primary concern is they do not want to have a Kurdish independent organization on their borders because they see that as inevitably aligned with the Kurdish movements in Turkey, which they've fought for a generation or so.